to do our PT just a little bit different. Today, we are gonna do classroom for 25 minutes, then we're gonna go out and do 15 minutes of PT and a 5-minute break. Then we're gonna come back at 7:45 and go until, I gotta work on that. We'll figure something out. We'll work on it as we go, but we're gonna break it up. The first one's gonna be a 20-minute break from 7:25 to 7:45, 15 minutes of that. The first 15 will be PT. All right, then we'll do another one later that'll be 10 minutes of PT and 5 minutes. Just to try to, again, keep things going a little bit. Photo, video, you say after 5 minutes today, 5, good, we'll do that afterwards. And then leadership tomorrow morning, 6:45. And then today, our instructor is Carl Cromaldi, who's here for Bright Area Fire, and I'm gonna let you take over from there.
All right, yeah, like I said, Carl Cromaldi, Bright Fire, been here like 8 years. Technical rescue team, trying to be a fire instructor, so. Alrighty, so I guess we'll start. What did you guys learn yesterday? Anything you guys learned about ventilation yesterday? I'm assuming yesterday was the first day of ventilation. So what's the biggest thing about ventilation? It literally says here on the top of the slide. Communication, biggest thing with ventilation, right? So let's say right here, roof loses integrity. You're sent to the roof to give the incident command a roof report, and you notice something's going wrong. What should you do? Anyone have any idea? Communicate. There you go. Right. So you see the roof starts losing integrity. You're going to evacuate the roof and notify command. So, you know, obviously, if you're going to the roof, there's probably people in the structure fighting fire as well. So you're going to let command know so they can get out of there and nobody gets hurt, right? So communication is, again, you know, ventilation is incredibly planned. It's incredibly tactful. Like, you're not going to go do any ventilation without the incident commander giving the go ahead. You know, at least in my experience. All right, so we're going to go right into a review question. What are some indicators of roof collapse that firefighters must watch for during ventilation operations? What you got, Kate? Anything?
Oh, like a spongy roof.
Spongy roof, beautiful. Definitely an indicator. How about Braden? You got anything? No? Isabella? What's an indicator of roof collapse? Go ahead, get it in.
If there's smoke or flame showing?
Smoke or flame showing, right? The fire's gone through the roof. That's a pretty good indication something bad's going to happen, right? Just like bowing in the roof. Anybody else got any thoughts? Go ahead. Yeah, real spongy. All right. So now we're going to go into the discussion question. All right, so you're assigned to perform ventilation on a 2-story commercial building. What conditions should you look for and be prepared to communicate to your supervisor and teammates as you ventilate? So commercial building. So commercial structures, what's think about this building right here, kind of a commercial structure, but what's something that's on the roof on any commercial structure that has a lot of weight that we might need to worry about? Go ahead. HVAC, yep. So let's say you get on the roof and, you know, the HVAC unit's sagging, maybe the HVAC unit's on fire. You know, again, be prepared to communicate with your supervisor and teammates. So really, you know, the roof report or the going to the roof to ventilate, you just try to identify any further hazards and communicate those to the incident commander.
Livonia, 1983, line of duty death, HVAC collapse on a commercial structure and killed a firefighter.
And I'm sure you guys have heard this probably already 100 times just in this class, but you know, if you go to the line of duty death report, the communication is going to be like one of the top things that failed. You know, one of the reasons that the line of duty death occurred was poor communication. So, chances are, if you are going to the roof for a roof report, that incident commander is gonna ask you pretty quickly what's going on, but if you see something that's bad, that's priority traffic. If you see potential roof collapse, you're gonna communicate that immediately, get yourself off that roof, and then, incident commander will decide about the people working interior, if they're gonna, emergency evacuate them or evacuate them in an orderly manner. Alright, so let's describe some ventilation tools and equipment. I was thinking it was going to go to a slide with tools and equipment, but alright, so let's talk about some tools and equipment for ventilation. Alex, you got any thoughts on that? Power saw, right? So K12, they make a nice little chainsaw called the ventilation saw. How about pipe bowls, New York hooks? Anything else? You got anything, Drew? Irons, okay. Yeah, nice flat-headed axe would be perfect to go on the roof with. So, we're going to use those tools and equipment to promote ventilation, create openings where gases and smoke will be within the structure, assist moving gas and smoke more efficiently, help assess ventilation locations, monitor ventilation, and identify ventilation locations. So usually, if you're going to the roof, if we're doing, roof operations, you're going to be given where they want the ventilation location to be to occur. Usually, but again, usually it's probably going to be able to see the fire, so you get all that terrible gases and smoke out of the structure. Then when you can see where the fire is, we put the fire out. Nice and easy. Oh, there's our tool slide. So yep. Chainsaw, the ventilation saw right there on the bottom left, a nice pipe pull, a nice axe, and a nice power saw. Anybody know the name of the power saw here? K12, the rotary saw. So, I've never heard it referred to as a power saw. That's why that caught my eye. But plenty of different names for each tool. So, air movement equipment. Alright, so anybody got an idea what an air movement device could be? Something that every fire truck will have in this county? Like a fan, right? So yeah, you can use hose lines and nozzles. Does anybody know what type of ventilation a hose line would be used for? Or have we gone over that yet?
It was discussed yesterday.
It was discussed yesterday? Okay. Put someone on the spot again?
It was on the video.
You guys remember?
The radio ordered them to do a certain type of ventilation. With the hose.
Go ahead, Mackenzie. Yeah, so we would be drawing smoke out the window with our nozzle. You know what that's called? Go ahead, Dominic.
Hydraulic ventilation.
Hydraulic ventilation, good. Flexible ducts. I'm not quite sure what they're
So
looking
for a
for.
PPV fan,
Okay.
if you start a PPV fan and you are pushing air into the structure, it's a gas-powered engine. So you would also be pushing in the exhaust. So we never were able to get our numbers down, and so most apartments nowadays have purchased a little clip-on device that clips onto the exhaust. It's a duct, like your dryer vent, and it pushes the exhaust a little bit further away, so it only draws fresh air, pushing it into the house and not exhaust from the gas engine.
Yeah, so to piggyback on that, I mean, we got a fire inside, we already have a hazard inside, and we're gonna add carbon monoxide to the hazard, we don't wanna do that, so, okay, I get what you're saying now. So stacking and hanging devices, smoke ejectors, not too common anymore, probably more common back when the captain was, running around Livonia.
Yeah, pretty much we replaced, although you'll get a chance to see them, because the book still talks about them, we pretty much replaced our smoke ejectors in the 1990s with PPV fans. Huge difference in air movement and technology and maintenance. So most people, once they saw the PPV fan, they said, this is the absolute way to go, and this technology, we're just gonna forget about. So it was difficult for me to even find an old, negative pressure fan or a smoke ejector.
But you do need to know what a negative pressure fan is, because I believe it is on the final test.
It is still in the book, so you're still responsible.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go over it more.
Okay. And then generators and electrical cords. So here in Brighton, all of our trucks have onboard generators now, so we don't carry standalone generators. But you know, obviously setting up, you know, we're 24/7, right? So in the middle of the night, it's pitch dark. We might need some electrical cords in the generator so we can get some lighting on whatever it is we're doing. Smoke control devices and wind control devices. What would a wind
So
control?
I think what they're talking about with the wind control devices is the door control or the little things that they're starting to sell that can go like plywood.
Oh, that
can go
covers the
over
rest of the,
doors.
yeah.
Yeah, and yeah.
So basically, you're using your fan and you're not sucking anything but that air in. There's no other openings. A nice wind control device. So there you go, the PPV fan. So now, you know, everything's going to electric. We're fortunate here in Brighton, both of our duty trucks have electric fans. And I mean, it has a pretty good battery, so, you know, we don't even need to have the, go back to the flexible duct to control that carbon monoxide it's making. There's your smoke ejector again. You know, I've never used one. I learned about them, I know what they do, but it looks, you know, you gotta hang that nice bar up there. It looks like it's a little more manpower is needed to use a smoke ejector. But yeah. So there's your hose line and nozzle, again for hydraulic ventilation. Usually, I don't want to say 100% of the time, but hydraulic ventilation, in my experience, basically we put the fire out, the home or the business is full of smoke still, and we use hydraulic ventilation just to remove that smoke. Make sure, you know, check for hot spots and stuff like that. There's your generator with your cord. Again, you know, a generator is going to be creating carbon monoxide, so you can't really, you know, need to keep it away from the already present hazard, so we're not adding a second hazard to what we're doing. All right, so inspection and maintenance of ventilation equipment. As with anything, you know, in the fire service, routine inspection and maintenance. You know, any of you guys that are already out of the department, or you know, you watch these gentlemen out here in the bay every single day. You know, we inspect and maintain things every single day. You know, we want to be ready for when those tones drop. You know, you get 100% of everything we do. So, you know, follow manufacturer instructions. So, you know, use the proper oil in your generator. You know, pretty simple stuff. So document inspection. So I would probably say every department here in this county, you know, uses some sort of application to document how they're inspecting their equipment. So obviously equipment that does not work should be marked out of service. You know, here in Brighton, you know, if we take something out of service, we have a backup to put onto the truck. And then you know, there's multiple people with different areas of responsibility that will fix that piece of equipment. And if it's not fixable, we'll go ahead and get a new one. So the authority having jurisdiction, AHJ, should establish inspection and maintenance SOPs. Again, you know, every department here in Livingston County has a nice full set of SOPs. What's an SOP? Just what does the acronym mean? You guys know that? Right. SOP, SOG, Standard Operating Guideline. You know, there's baseline. This is what you should do. This is how you should do it. You can change it up. All right, so let's list 5 tools or pieces of equipment used for ventilation. Let's talk about how they're used. All right, so what's our main piece for ventilation? What's the first thing you're going to think of? What piece of equipment?
Big one.
Max. Okay.
Vanilla, there's another one.
Rotary saw.
Rotary saw, beautiful.
Sense.
I was thinking the hose line.
Yep, hose line, they do real quick, so you should have a backup hose line. Again, that's a safety thing. You will go on almost no fires in your career where you do that. The book says you should.
Yes.
So, yes, that is a correct answer. Possibly, another one? Mike Paul, good. Salvador, any more?
Chainsaw.
Huh?
Chainsaw.
someone say chainsaw?
Yeah, somebody said rotary saw.
Oh, rotary saw, okay, rotary saw, chainsaw. Rotary saw typically gonna be for your commercial structures, cutting through the metal, got a metal cutting blade normally, and then for your residential chainsaw. For cutting through the wood. All right, very good.
Usually it'll be that ventilation type chainsaw where it only has like 45 inches of the chainsaw exposed. So you're not going through like the trusses in the house and stuff.
So we kind of modified it from the old lumberjacks up in the Upper Peninsula and Wisconsin and Minnesota, and we said, let's make this a little bit more fire service friendly, more fire service usable. And so we put some modification on, shortened up the bar, and even in some cases, put a little bit of a tilt to it. So you can drag the chainsaw along the roof, and it's at enough of an angle where it will cut through 2 layers of roof.
Easier, safer, right? Everything we do is, once you're in the fire service, you're gonna aim at safety, so, anything we can do to keep things safe. There's one more piece of equipment specifically used for a residential home. A certain type of ladder you might use for ventilation. Anybody got an idea, Dominic?
An attic ladder?
Attic ladder, maybe, but there's another type. It's got the hooks on it. Go ahead. Roof ladder, perfect. Right, so when you're up on that roof with that pitch, you want something that, you're not gonna be able to stand there, with nothing and start cutting. You want something there to keep you safe. Again, safety. So, let's go ahead and describe horizontal ventilation. Before we move on to that, anybody have any idea what horizontal ventilation might be? Kate, you got any idea?
Is it from the roof?
Horizontal ventilation is actually not from the
Or
roof.
from the, like window or door?
Right, window or door, perfect. So, yeah, when I think of horizontal ventilation, I just think easy ventilation. Hit the second floor, open a window. Maybe blow the window out with your ladder, or, break it with an axe off a ladder, or something like that. So, horizontal ventilation uses a lot of natural ventilation. You can use, just natural ventilation like the wind blowing through. If you open, let's say you open the door on the first floor, and then you open all the windows on the second floor, depending on which way the wind's blowing, blow all that smoke out. Then again, hydraulic ventilation, which is what? Water, right? So, again, these are, there's a few different kinds. Anytime you think hydraulic ventilation, just think nozzle or water. Perfect, right? And then mechanical ventilation would be using what type of equipment? You're creating wind. There you go, fan. Alright, so natural horizontal ventilation should take advantage of natural airflow, like I said, so like the wind. And again, this is, when I think of natural horizontal ventilation, it's easy. You're opening the window, you're opening the door. So, as it says there, no additional personnel or equipment required to set up.
So there's 2 terms in there. The first one is natural. So that means we're not adding anything to it. Whatever Mother Nature gives us, that's what we've got. And then the second one is horizontal. So we're not going to cut any vertical openings in a roof or anything like that. We are just going to take advantage of those openings that exist.
Yeah. So again, natural horizontal ventilation. Again, when I think of it, that's what I want. Thumbs up to that, because that's easy, right? So there's your diagram. So you have upwind, you open a couple windows there. Maybe you cut a hole if there's no windows, probably not. But and then downwind, there's your fire, blowing that smoke out. Now, if we got an active fire, do we really want to, think about that fire tetrahedron. You're adding what? Adding something to that fire makes it worse, right? So, if you got a good working fire, you really don't want to add more oxygen to it, right? I'm sure yesterday you guys talked about controlling your doors, controlling the flow of oxygen.
Okay, so that just kind of shows very basic. You're going to want to have an inlet and an outlet. If you've got the wind at your back, then great. The wind is going to help you push the heat, smoky gases out. Obviously, that's a cartoon drawing. So it doesn't show the rest of the puzzle. The rest of the puzzle is firefighters with hose lines. So that's when you open up the windows, and when you've got firefighters in place with the charge hose line ready to go.
Yeah, so if you got a fire, this doesn't work on the TV. If you got somebody literally right there with a nozzle, putting water on that fire, then okay, let's start opening it up. But if we got a working fire, we're not really sure, maybe it's, it's up in the attic and we don't know, if we start adding air, if we start adding oxygen to it, what are some things that could happen if we add a whole bunch of oxygen, right? Flashover, flashover, and we're just gonna, feed that fire thing way bigger than it already was. Alright, so natural ventilation before, during fire suppression. If only one single opening is made, it will be the intake and exhaust, so.
So remember we talked way back in chapter 4 about that unidirectional ventilation. It's gonna go out the top portion and it's gonna go in the bottom portion. That's just the way it works. Heat, smoke, and gas tend to rise.
Right. So opening windows, doors may allow firefighters to apply straight stream from exterior to make it, So yeah, let's say you got a big enough fire, you can't really go in yet. You hit it, I'm sure you guys have heard hitting it from the yard, right? And then going in and, taking care of it. So if you're gonna be hitting it from the yard, yeah, you're gonna need an open window or door or something so you can get that water on that fire. Again, door control can be used to change flow path, so, this whole presentation is gonna mention door control and flow path. I bet 50 times each. So yeah, just remember that as, two big things right there. And then control your natural ventilation as much as possible. So, if there are openings and you can close them, before you start getting water on that fire, that would be a wonderful thing to do, because again, the wind picks up, fires add oxygen to the fire, it's just gonna keep getting bigger. So control your natural ventilation as much as you can. That'll make your day a little easier. Alright, so natural ventilation. So with multiple openings, yes, it can speed up smoke removal, obviously, because find somewhere to go, smoke rises, right? And it could result in further property damage. Yeah, so if you got a little fire on the first floor and the smoke's going way up into the second floor and up in the attic, we might get a good knock on the fire, but the smoke damage will cause, a lot of property damage. Alright, let's talk about some mechanical horizontal ventilation. So, good time to use it is when natural flow is insufficient. Again, we're going to use our ventilation tools, fans, blowers, smoke ejectors to create negative or positive pressure. Again, you need to know both negative and positive, but negative is really not, used these days any longer. Did you guys use negative a lot back?
Not a lot. Alright, so let me do a little negative and then we'll go on our first PT. Negative pressure ventilation draws smoke out. So to set negative pressure ventilation up with a smoke ejector, you take what's basically a room fan, like the fans that I have behind the door that we use. It just takes a fan. And you have firefighters with full PVC and SCBA on that go into the IDLH atmosphere. You got to work as a buddy system if you're an IDLH. We seal the room off, close doors, etc. We put the hanger on, the door hanger up. We mount on hooks the smoke ejector up high as we can get it. We power it. It's run off electricity, so we need a generator, house power, or something to power this, and then we turn it on, and it sucks the smoke out of there. So it creates less pressure in the room, and it pulls smoke out, just like when you want to get a drink from here with a straw, like that.
Like the Venturi effect.
You create the Venturi, you create the negative pressure, which draws it up into the straw. So it was kind of not super effective, but it was the best we had. But every time you used it, you got back to the station and you had to take off the screen on both sides and you had to scrub down the blade because the smoke went right through there.
Okay,
So it all caked up on there. And you also, again, to make sure you have that negative effect, again, a straw, fluid's not going to go up a straw if you don't have your mouth sealed around the straw. So we have to take in tarps, salvage covers, and we used to have to kind of fold them in around the fan as well. So they were very time consuming, awkward, hard to set up. And then when we went to the positive pressure ventilation fan, it moved so much more smoke and it never goes into an ideal age atmosphere. So now it can be set up by one firefighter without SCBA from the outside of the structure. Okay, you create an opening on the other side, you create an opening on this side, you turn the fan on, and you blow it in. Okay, you completely cover the opening so it can't go in partway, and so if you do mouth to mouth and you don't seal the nose, the air that you blow in is going to go in the nose and then out, or in the mouth and out through the nose. Okay, because you didn't seal that off instead of doing all that work going here. Same thing there. It would do the same thing. It would just come right back out if you didn't completely seal it. Completely seal it, it's full of pressure. It's got to go somewhere, so it's looking for that outlet. It's like if you have a balloon full of air. Okay, if you open it up, that's the outlet. It wants out, so it's going to go out. So we completely, basically took off our negative pressure fans, our smoke ejectors, and replaced them with positive pressure. Book still talks about it. We still have one. We're still going to use it. We're still going to set it up. We'll still show you how it works. But a number that you don't need to know. We measure air movement in CFM, cubic feet per minute. A smoke ejector, negative pressure, will move about 8,000 cubic feet per minute. A positive pressure fan, the smallest ones, start at 40,000 cubic feet per minute. So already 8 times more air movement. So it's going to be a lot better. Yeah. All right. Who's leading PT?